welcome to another Wearable Wednesday. So often we're sitting here, and I've heard this time and time again, but what really is HRV? What does it measure? And if we break HRV down, it actually comes down to this fact of that HRV is a measure of internal load and internal stress on the body. And why it's such a key measure to really simplify everything that's going on within the world and within ourselves is that we sit here and look at numbers and can have massive amounts of information, but we really aren't able to apply anything. So the moment that we know, hey, you look at one number which is HRV, we can start to dictate whether we are stressed internally or not. And once we understand that, we can start to take action on the information we gather. HRV is the direct correlation to time in milliseconds between beats of the heart rate. And what that tells us is whether our parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system is stimulated. And by knowing that our parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, we can understand the internal loading and which is happening within the body. And the reason that is key is that we live in chronic sympathetic overload. Chronic sympathetic overload can come back to the stance of being stressed all the time at work, having diet or nutritional change, working out, arguments with our spouse, difficulty with some member of the family, the pandemic going on. All of these things that are chronically in our lives leave us in this sympathetic state, and 95% of us live in chronic sympathetic overload. So by understanding this, we can start to make changes to the way that we act, the way that we live, the way that we sleep, the routines in which we engage upon, so that we can sleep better and ultimately take ourselves out of this parasympathetic or this sympathetic state and put us into the parasympathetic state, so that ultimately we live longer, we live healthier, we can lose weight easier, we act in a more positive way, our energy is higher. Because at the end of the day, the world sucks us into this parasympathetic divinity that it seems like we can never get there. And the sympathetic overload is so large. So I know I've said parasympathetic and sympathetic probably 18 times in this video, but I want you to understand. Sympathetic means fight, flight, freeze, aggression, anxiousness, all of those stressors that come with the life. Whereas parasympathetic means relax, rest, digest, calm, cool, collected. And that's where we want to try to activate. That's where we want to try and be. So by knowing that we can look at one number, which is HRV, and understand if we are more parasympathetic or sympathetically overloaded, we can thus change the habits and thus change the results in which we're getting, change the way we feel, and ultimately improve our energy based upon those habits that we are engaging in. That's another Wearable Wednesday. See you next week.